It's been 6 weeks since Cardiff City were relegated from the Championship to League One. They still haven't appointed a manager or head coach to take them into the League One season. And with each passing day and with each passing news story, the situation gets more and more shambolic and proves why Cardiff City are currently one of the worst run clubs in the EFL. Now, in my opinion, the whole reason that Cardiff got relegated from the Championship in the first place was not because of a bad manager or two. It's not because of bad signings necessarily. It's due to a complete void when it comes to either leadership or football expertise, and it certainly comes down to consistently bad decision making over a period of a few years, which in the English pyramid leads eventually to relegation. And there's nothing really to suggest that the situation is improving in any way, or that those at the top of the club are learning from their mistakes. I was encouraged to hear that Cardiff looked for external support and hired an external agency to help with their manager hire. That makes sense for clubs to do, but if the reporting is correct, the agency and the club works together to develop a list of candidates, and there are a lot of good candidates available at the moment, only to scrap it and have their head turned by Nathan Jones. Why on earth did they go full tilt for Nathan Jones in such a public way? That never made sense. Yes, I know that Nathan Jones has previously said that he's a big Cardiff City fan and that in the future he'd love the opportunity to manage Cardiff City. But those comments were made at a different time, with circumstances and context completely different to the current situation, where Nathan Jones is in the middle of repairing his managerial reputation, has got his claws into Charlton Athletic. The club have bended to his will and he's taken them up into the Championship, and it's a big club and it's got momentum, and Jones must know by now, after his experiences with Stoke and with Southampton, how important it is for a manager to have that kind of buy-in. And if he was to leave that and drop down a division and join Cardiff City, with their record of supporting managers being so poor in the last few years, with their recruitment record being poor over the last few years, just because he was a fan of the club growing up, managers have to think about themselves. They have to think about their careers, because it's unbelievably difficult to sustain a long career in the game as a manager in modern EFL football. And it never made sense for Jones to leave Charlton. Sure enough, Jones signed a new 5-year deal with Charlton, and it gave the impression that Cardiff City had been played, and it continues to give the impression that they're just not smart enough to win in the football landscape. It feels like Cardiff City cannot win off the field, and that's affecting what they can do on it as well. After the Jones news, it felt like they reverted back to basically where we were 4 weeks ago. Maybe it would be Aaron Ramsey. Loads of reporting around Ramsey wanting the job, but Ramsey wanting promises around some restructuring and basically building more of a support network for managers, because he's seen firsthand how Cardiff lurch from manager to manager to manager, blame everything on that individual without providing them the support that they need to succeed. And sure enough, Aaron Ramsey will not be the new Cardiff City manager. So now they move on. Maybe it will be Des Buckingham. Maybe it will be Brian Barry Murphy. No doubt we will see an appointment in the next few days. And I'm sure we will be able to give a more measured appraisal of the manager or head coach that Cardiff City bring in, the pros and the cons around it. But the situation is such a mess, and I think it causes problems for whoever is appointed, because they'll be walking in when everyone knows that the bosses really fancied someone else deep down. And that's not a great launch pad for success, is it? They still don't have that footballing support structure in place for a manager to come and slot in and be able to focus on coaching and managing the team. They don't have that support staff. And the last thing that's really frustrated me about this whole thing is just how publicly this has all played out. Now, in the modern game, with the press as it is around football, it's very difficult to keep things in-house, to keep things under wraps, but it's not impossible. If you run a tight ship, if you have a good organisation, it is possible to avoid every single thought that you have, every decision that you want to make, every offer that you make made public. It's possible to avoid all of that if you are a serious operation. And frankly, if I were a Cardiff fan, I would be really embarrassed, I would be angry, and I would be feeling pretty let down by both the decision making itself and the fact that the club is so leaky that journalists seem to just be flies on the wall inside Cardiff City. Absolutely none of this screams successful football club. Absolutely none of this screams Cardiff City being turned around and heading straight back up to the Championship with a freshness, with a new momentum. We saw last season with Huddersfield Town that just having a big budget for the level and just having a pretty decent squad and just hiring a manager with a record of success at this level is not a silver bullet. In the modern game, you just have to have organisation, you have to have solid football strategy, and you have to provide support for your manager. At this stage, it doesn't feel like Cardiff are ready to provide all of that. And that's why whoever they appoint, it feels difficult to be super positive about the way that they might attack this League One season. For all the latest Welsh sports news, head to dragonsports.co.uk. Whenever Cardiff City do appoint a manager, we'll do a video on the specific manager, looking back at their previous jobs and discussing whether this might be a good or a bad fit. But for now, Cardiff City fans, how are you feeling about the way this is all played out? We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Am I being harsh? Am I being fair? Am I hitting the nail on the head? Or am I wide of the mark? Please subscribe to the channel and let us know.